I'm just sitting there, just minding my own business. And he reaches over and he's like, taste this. And I remember it just tasting like burnt firewood. And I was like, what is this? Like, like, how could you drink this?
Welcome to the Whiskey and Real Estate Podcast. I'm Alex Peterson, and I'm thrilled to be joined tonight with my good buddy, Dave Schwartzberg from Florida. Dave, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. It's a good excuse to have some whiskey on a weekday. So I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And with that, I mean, we might as well just get the cheers and get into this. So I know we're a distance, but cheers to a great night, great conversations. Appreciate you, man.
Cheers, brother. Excited for this.
Oh, that's tasty. That's tasty.
Since real quick, since we're not saying what this is, let me just say that was good. Just opened it. That was a nice taste.
Is this your first time having this whiskey?
Yep, first time.
Nice. So what did you get when you smell this? What's the first thing that jumps out at you?
It's very light. There's a little bit of oak, a little bit of like fruit.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'd probably, to me, the fruitiness, it kind of reminds me. Have you ever stuck your nose in a bag of raisins? My kids have raisins for lunch so often. Like, that's a very normal smell in my house.
I think I forgot what raisins smell like, but I can see it.
Well, we'll talk about what we're tasting and, get into the flavors and all that good stuff in a little bit. Dave, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where are you doing business right now? What got you into real estate? Kind of give us a little overview.
Yeah, awesome. Currently residing in Davie, Florida. So for those who don't know, but know Fort Lauderdale, it's pretty much like 20 minutes west, about 45 minutes north of Miami, an hour south of West Palm. In the South Florida area. I've been down here at this point, it's been 15 years. My parents moved me from Long Island, New York, down to Boca Raton, Florida for high school. And I went to college at UCF in Orlando, go Knights, and came back down. I have an office in East Boca, been in the business since 2019.
Nice.
And it's going great. So if you want to know how I got into the real estate, how much time do we have? Because I can tell you the long story, I can tell you the short story. What do we got going on here?
Yeah, we should probably keep to the short story. Give us the abbreviated version and hit all the really fun parts.
Long story short is for the Southwestern people out there. I did door-to-door sales in college for a summer, and when I got back, I thought I was studying finance, and I knew I wanted to make a lot of money, and I was good with numbers. So I thought I was going to be a financial advisor. That was going to be my route. I ended up starting my business for 4 years. I did junior year in college. I started a business. And I did that for 2 years during college and 2 years post-college. And it got to a point to where it was an amazing experience, starting my own business, going from start to finish, dealing with supply chain, learning just a ton. My cousin came up to me and he was like, look, you've been in finance, you've been in sales, he's a general contractor down here in South Florida. So he's like, look, I don't care if you're going to do this business for another 5 years. I don't care if it's for 15 years. Whenever your time runs out, I want you to get your real estate license and I will develop the homes and you'll sell the homes. So kind of like the property brothers, except the property cousins.
Yeah.
That was the goal. And so once, I kind of came to the end of the road with my startup company back in 2019, I ended up getting my real estate license and haven't looked back since.
Nice. What's one of your favorite things about being in real estate?
I think one of my favorite things is also one of my least favorite things. It's the flexibility with our time. The great thing is like, look, if I need to stop early on a Friday or get coffee with a client or take a client out to lunch or I want to go play golf, I can do that, right? I don't have anyone telling me not to. If I want to go take a vacation, I can do that. Nobody's telling me not to take the vacation. So like, that's the great part, having your own business and having the flexibility to do so. And also, like I said, that's the one of the worst qualities as well, because if you're taking too many vacations and too many lunches, you're not selling any homes, so you're not going to make any money.
Very true.
So I think that rule applies to like year 5 plus. I think the first 5 years are the most crucial in this industry. But once you're past that year 5 mark, which we're kind of hitting right now, you start to be able to figure out when you can take off time, and you can be a little bit more flexible with it. So yeah, I would say flexibility is the best and worst attribute of this job.
I would totally agree. I mean, this week I've had, I don't know, like 3 business lunches. I was out last night with a client and a business partner. I mean, we met up at like 8 o'clock at night, so like great because I have the flexibility and thankfully he was open to it. Go out late at night and have our business meeting then. But it can definitely be crippling too. And that's, I know, what crushes a lot of people that get into real estate is the unbridled freedom that you get on your time. But I think it's hysterical that so I sold books in a different capacity with a different company before I got into real estate. And I actually looked at financial planning as one of my options after I was like trying to sort out like what to do. And I had no clue that you did the financial planning kind of thought there for a little bit too.
Yeah, well, it means we're in the right place since we're both here together. Yeah, wanted to do the whole Wall Street and ended up here, and wouldn't change it for the world. So
Yeah, yeah, dude, that's awesome. Obviously, we work in two very different markets. I'm up here in Illinois, which is one of the most left states. Every year, more people move out than move in, which is weirdly still not fixing inventory issues up here. You'd think at some point enough people would move out that these buyers could get stuff. But what are some of the struggles that you're having down there in Florida?
well, we have the opposite problem. I mean, people are moving in by the day. Between us and Texas, we keep on going back and forth as the most moved to state in the United States. The demand has been pretty consistent, definitely over time. Obviously, we got the weather, we got the taxes, or lack thereof.
Yeah.
So obviously, it's been a very highly demanded state to move to. One of the biggest issues in our area currently is because of the Surfside crash. I don't know how, I guess, big it was in the news when it happened, but back in a couple of years ago down in Miami, the building collapsed in Surfside, Miami, to where it was showed that there was signs of neglect and it could have been saved, and yet because of the neglect, the whole condo building collapsed. There were deaths. People got moved out of their condos, and it was very catastrophic. So one of the new policies that went into place as of this year was that their condo associations had to have a certain amount of reserves for upkeep of the building and so on and so forth, making sure they have their 40-year certifications. You'd be surprised on how many buildings do not have reserves from the HOA fees. I mean, the people that are hired as the CFOs or the treasurers of the HOAs, they're not doing this for money. They're part of the community. Some people are qualified, a lot of them aren't. So whether it's mismanagement of funds, especially in Miami, which has the highest rate of fraud in the United States, there's either money laundering, there's, bad things going on, or it's just simply they don't know how to strategically implement certain plans and procedures and policies in order to allocate the funds in the correct way. Because of this, and because of not having a certain amount of money reserves, these associations had to impose special assessments onto all the homeowners in the condo associations. A lot of these homeowners are getting banged with 20, 30, 40, $50,000 special assessments that a lot of these people, I mean, their condo is worth $250,000. So
That's
like,
a lot of money. And so because we got a lot of first time home buyers that watch this, not all of them are necessarily going to understand what an HOA fee is. Maybe you can maybe back up for us and just give a highlight of what is an HOA and what are they supposed to be doing?
yeah, so when you buy a condo, right, you only own the walls within your condo, which means the association is the governing body that helps take care of the roof, the exterior, the common grounds, the park that's included, on the grounds of these condo buildings. So it's the governing body that takes care I guess the condo building or the community itself.
And there's a monthly fee associated with living in a community like that.
Correct. So there's a monthly fee for being in a condo in which it gets allocated to certain areas. So, for example, your homeowner's insurance is cheaper as a condo owner because the insurance is only for the interior of your condo, in which the condo association has a master policy for the exterior and for the structure of the building. So your insurance is lower, but a portion is going towards the exterior of the insurance of the building. It's going for maintenance of the building. It's going for then cutting the grass for the common areas. Some condo buildings include the water in the condo association fees. Let's just say it's $500 a month. That $500 is implemented to 6, 7, 8 different things for your monthly payment.
So in your area, out of curiosity, what would you say like an average HOA fee is?
So I'm in Southeast Florida, right? It's all over. I mean, you can have condo association fees. I would say starting at, let's just say, $400, right?
Okay.
400, $500. You go to the beach and you get $1 million condo. Your association fee can be anywhere from 1,500 a month up to 5,000 a month if you want to be in the Ritz Carlton. So we have a very large, disparity between condo fees.
Man, that's wild. So out here, I mean, I live in Carroll Stream, Illinois, which is a western Chicago suburb, and honestly, I could get somebody into an HOA out here in a condo and have them spending less than $300 a month for the HOA. That's not unheard of. Anything north of $500 out in the suburbs is definitely like a high end HOA. As we get to the city, as people might expect, you get into some of those high rises and stuff, just like you get when you get closer to the beach. They can go through the roof. I have seen wild HOA fees where it's like, again, the condo itself is $400,000 and your HOA fee is $1,800 a month. And I'm like, holy cow. And if you want parking, then you're paying extra for your parking spot in the purchase price, as well as paying an additional amount in your HOA fee for the parking, which is another added fun to buying a condo in the city.
Yeah. I mean, look, condos have its pros and cons. There's a lot less upkeep for a condo, right? Your insurance is going to be lower for a condo. If you find a condo building that has a sufficient amount of reserves in holding, then you may not be hit with special assessments that often. So if you find the right condo building, I think for a first-time homeowner, it could be very beneficial and a great price point for an easier entry. That being said, if you are uneducated about the condo market, you can really get screwed over. Make sure I'll do a plug right now. Make sure you hire someone like Alex Peterson in Illinois, because you need to make sure that you're hiring someone that can truly assist you when buying a condo. So,
Yeah,
yeah, it has its pros, has its cons, just like any other property, right?
definitely does. So that brings us right back to the special assessment is going to be HOA has not kept enough money in reserves, and they are just having enough every year to pay out their normal bills for maintenance, upkeep, management of the property. But big expense comes up. They need a roof. They have a foundation issue. They have a massive plumbing issue. Now they've got no money for it. And they're either taking out loans to try to do this. And typically that means special assessment is coming to pay off the note that they had to take out to do the major project, or they're trying to build up those reserve funds like a savings account for this issue down the road if they have it. And so you say there were people doing 20, 30,000 on $200,000, $300,000 properties. I mean, as a first time homeowner, I can't imagine if you walked in the door and paid $250 for your place, and then 2 years later you're getting slapped with a $30,000 HOA special assessment. I mean, that I don't even know how you handle that.
Yeah, which is why in South Florida we've seen the supply going up for condos, because it's a weird market down here, right? Depending on the type of property that you buy will depend on what type of market it is. The single family market is staying extremely strong, even with these rates staying at 7%. There's areas, depending on obviously where you're buying, but there's a lot of areas that have still 3 months of inventory, 4, 5, 6, which is in a normal market, right? There's condos. I mean, I sold a condo recently last November to where there was 7 months of inventory for condos in that market. And I need to get these people, to their home and sell their property within 6 weeks, and we still got pretty close to top dollar. But, you have to be upfront with these homeowners saying, look, if you want any chance in selling this condo, we need to price aggressively. You may not get the number one top dollar that maybe you think, but look, we're going to value it correctly. We're going to undercut it by maybe $5,000, $10,000. And that being said, we got it under contract in 6 weeks. So there's
Yes,
been
buddy.
a large inventory rise for condos, but like I said, there's still good ones out there.
Yeah.
And honestly, as well, probably a big buying opportunity for some of these buildings that are getting really low in price.
Yeah, I mean that's super interesting. Up here, I know. So the city I live in, again, just for like easy reference, throughout the entirety of last year, we have been topped out. The worst month for inventory, we had 1 month's supply, and I'm sitting here like I don't even know what to do with this. We're still beating each other over the back of the head to get into places. I sold a condo over in Oak Park, which is a suburb of Chicago, and Oak Park's a little slower, so they were at like 2 months inventory, which makes it feel real slow over there compared to so many other areas where you're under one. And still, same thing, very similar. We were like, look, this is what this thing's worth. We're going to go just a little bit underneath this because we don't want to sit. Because you and I both know the longer it sits, less likely you are to get what you want for it. So better to price it just underneath where fair is. But would you rather take $5,000 and sell your house in 6 weeks, or do you want to put $5,000 higher and sit for 4 to 6 months? Like, that's
Yeah,
the big question.
exactly.
All right, man. So you've been having this. Let's get your thoughts on the. You're gone. You're gone. So what did you think, man? What were you tasting in all of that?
I don't really know if I was tasting that much, if I'm being brutally honest, but I'll tell you this: it went down like water. You know, I'm actually a tequila guy. I'm not really a big whiskey person.
Okay.
Being said, that being said, if you give me a good whiskey or a good scotch, obviously I can appreciate and enjoy it. So obviously, I liked it.
So this guy's a winner.
This is a winner, definitely. I would give it a 9 out of 10.
9 out of 10. I like that. I'd probably agree with you right in there. This one for me on the palate, I mean, I get caramel. Definitely that sweetness and the fruit just rides through the entirety of it. You got a nice, like, oakiness that rounds out that flavor. Do you know what peated whiskey is?
Mhm.
Peated whiskey is smoky tasting whiskey. So peat is
Yeah.
that burn flavor. If you ever had a glass of whiskey and it felt like you were licking a piece of firewood, that's peated whiskey. This
Well,
one is so subtle.
yeah. Well, it's funny that you say that. I can vividly remember I had to be, I don't know, maybe 9 years old, 10 years old. My brother is 20, my half brother, but my brother is 20 years older than me, like by the week. And we happened to be at either bar mitzvah or a wedding or something to where I think we were hanging out at the bar after in the hotel. Right. And I'm just sitting there with my family, just minding my own business. And he reaches over and he's like, taste this. And I remember just a little bit hitting the lips and it just tasting like burnt firewood. And I was like, what is this? Like how could you drink this? And they were all cracking up. So, yeah, no, I can totally understand like the smoky firewood, which now like I said, I like a little bit more now, but yeah, that was a nice punch in the stomach when I was 9, 10 years old.
Man, yeah, that would be wild. I know the first time I had a glass of Ardbeg. Ardbeg is heavily peated, and it was just I didn't know what to do with it. I mean, it just smells like smoke. That's all I got in on the nose. And then I took my first sip, and I'm like, literally, it just tastes like smoke. I get nothing else. And then for my brother's bachelor party, we smoked cigars, and I had the same whiskey again, and I thought it was phenomenal.
Mhm.
So note to self, if you're a cigar smoker, heated whiskeys pair beautifully with cigar because you've already got that smokiness, you got it filling out your mouth, and then you actually get into all of those deeper, richer tones in the whiskey, and it's glorious. Unfortunately for me, my wife hated kissing me when I smoked that cigar, so I have not had a cigar since.
Hey, no, noted. I noted. I appreciate the PSA. That being said, can I pour myself? Like, do I have to be outside of the? How should I do this? Because I would love
Go
another.
for it. Yeah, yeah, no, go for it. Go ahead and pour another one. I'm actually gonna pour its brother, and I'm gonna share the thoughts on its brother, and I'll do the reveal later. All right, let's go. We are back at it. Dave and I have both got another glass. Cheers to keeping this conversation going, and let's enjoy.
Cheers. But yeah, I really needed that refill. That was good.
Yeah. Hey, hold your glass up real quick. Your color tone is definitely redder than mine. So I have a variation of the same whiskey, and yours is got a much more amber hue to it than mine does. Mine's not nearly as amber, which is interesting.
Would you know why that is, or is that too deep in knowing the differences?
I know why it's different because of how it's finished. All the good whiskey drinkers are gonna now start making their guesses of what we're having. If it's they both have the same age statement, one is finished in something different than the other. So we both have the same thing round one, but I brought in the brother just to be able to compare here.
Hey, that was just a little test to make sure that you knew and you pass. Happy I'm here with a true whiskey connoisseur.
All right, man. So we went from 2021, where we had like 6.1 million transactions across the country, to 2022, where we had, mid fives. 2023, we had 4.1, and they thought that was super low. And they're like, we should be moving up a little bit from here. They thought that was the bottom. At least all of the experts I was listening to were like, we'll see at least a little bit of growth this year, be 4.3. We saw 4.06, and this is the lowest inventory shift since 1995. So we got first time homebuyers that don't know what to do with this. So what's your advice to first time homebuyers that are looking to buy down there in South Florida?
So my advice has been to buy when you can. One, you cannot time the market, right? And two, I think due to last year, there's been a bunch of pent up demand. Why was there pent up demand? I think that people were thinking the rates were going to go lower. We've been saying it's supposed to hit the fives, supposed to hit the fours again. That's not happening. I mean, who knows what's going to happen with the new administration? But I personally don't see with this economy and how it's staying strong that they're going to lower interest rates. So I think once this year has already been up to a hot start, buyers are moving, sellers are moving. Um, I think that if you miss out and you keep on trying to time the market, they're going to miss out on a ton of appreciation, not only in the short term, but in the long term. All those people that were sitting on the sidelines last year waiting for the 5%, it's not happening. So the time is now. I think the activity level as a whole is going to go up, not just first time homeowners, but real estate as a whole. And I think that the earlier you can get in the game, the better it is.
I mean, I think that's great advice, regardless of where you're at and what the market is. I wholeheartedly agree. Timing the market, terrible idea. It's almost impossible to do. You can get lucky, absolutely. But if that's your game plan of trying to wait and pull the trigger right when the rates bottom out, the reality about interest rates is they fluctuate every single day. That's a wild thing to try to stay on top of. It's not like rates change once a month and you're like, okay, well, the rates went down, so I have a whole month to figure out what I'm doing. It's like, no, you got to just do what you got to do when you can afford it. And that's been the advice that I'm giving people. It's like, look, I agree with you. I don't think interest rates are going anywhere. I think we're going to be in this six range for the foreseeable future. The reality is mortgage rates really are mostly dependent on consumer price index, the inflation markers, and job reports. And right now, inflation actually is slowly trickling back up. They wanted it to be, at 2%. We're closing in on 3. So the reality of the Fed moving the rates down on, the short-term lending basis points, that's probably not going to happen. And we saw, for anybody who tracked mortgage rates last year, when the Fed dropped the rates for the first time, do you remember what happened to mortgage rates right after that happened?
You tell me.
They started going up. So leading into this, we see the mortgage rates trickling down as everybody's anticipating this rate drop from the Fed. And then when the Fed bumped the rates down, mortgage rates trended exclusively up and topped back over 7% by the end of the year. So for all those people are like, oh, when the Fed drops the rate, I'm going to pull the trigger. We're going to be in the low sixes. It's going to be great. And then they're sitting here like, we're at sevens now. And I know in my market, so in my county that I work in right now, the median sales price increased by 9.4% last year. That's a wild amount of equity that people just missed out on waiting for the rates to drop. Do you have any idea what the median home price shift was for you guys?
So Palm Beach County, I believe, appreciated by 6% last year, year over year. They're expecting this year still to be positive, anywhere from 1 to 3%. So I think the biggest thing as well, in like different markets for different, obviously supply and demand issues, but down here in South Florida, you've got the ocean to the east, and then you'll see the Everglades to the west. And depending on where you are, like Boca takes up a whole entire territory from the water to the Everglades. So you go Boca, Delray, Boynton, Lake Worth. So you're landlocked, which means what? You have a fixed amount of supply or territory, we can't build. There's no more land. I mean, you got a big builder called Geo Homes will literally find the smallest amount of land, put $1 million homes onto it, and they'll be on top of each other. And they're still selling for $1, $2, $3 million, which is crazy, especially if you see how these things are built. They're built pretty, but I've seen things that I don't know how these things get approved. But that being said, I think the big factor of these home prices continuing to appreciate is that we have kind of a fixed amount of supply. We can't build more homes. Strictly, how many people are moving out? How many people are moving in? People are definitely leaving the state, but the amount of influx into this area is insane.
Yeah, the market is wild. It's definitely been a ride. So kind of wrapping back around to come full circle here back to your story. So you've been in the industry for 5 years now, and we continue to see more people wanting to get into the industry. What kind of advice might you have for someone who's watching this is like, hey, I want to buy my first house, but I'm also thinking maybe I want to get into real estate so I can save maybe on the commissions, do it part time. Like, what kind of advice do you have for people like that?
Don't do it. Don't come into the industry. That's my advice. No, I mean, look, I love what I do. I'm going to be doing this for the rest of my life. I truly like love what I do, which most people cannot say. So, it's a joke, also serious, because look, in the first couple of years, people think it's selling Sunset, it's owning Manhattan. You're selling these 20, $30 million homes. It's not like that. It's an absolute grind the first 5 years. And you either have to work a second job, you either have to have a massive amount of savings, or you just go into debt, which was what I did. I just bet on myself that I knew eventually I would succeed, in which then you pay off the debt, right? So
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of challenges to getting into this industry. Um, I guess the number one advice I would have would be to link up with either a team or a mentor, right? That's the two biggest things is you need leadership and you need to be taught the correct way on how to build a business in this environment. I was blessed to learn under my managing broker, Nick Sproul. I worked as an apprentice. I learned through a hands-on approach with all of his clients to where, after that first year of being an apprentice, I knew how to handle a transaction. I wasn't an expert by any means, but at least I knew how to have these conversations. I knew how, what to say to the agents. I knew starting to learn how to negotiate and all these things because most people don't get the reps early on, and I got all the reps by working with his clients. And then, same goes working with a team. You're getting leads, which is great.
Yeah.
You're teaching how to have these conversations. You're getting the reps in, and also having an opportunity to earn a commission. So I would highly advise on getting either a mentor or on a team. If you're getting thrown out there in an environment like this with no guidance, I guarantee you will not succeed. It's truly impossible. And you see it every day. That's the reason why 90% of the brokers or associates leave the industry in the first 2 years. High turnover rate is because the lack of mentorship and also the lack of professionalism in our industry. So, yeah, get hooked up with a mentor. That's my biggest piece of advice.
Yeah, and so I'm going to take a quick second to plug our brokerage here because we do that exceptionally.
Yes, we do.
I have worked at one other brokerage, but I've interviewed at a mess of them. And the reality is, nobody does it quite like we do. And I would argue that you and I have both gained our success due to where we're at. The caliber of people we're around, the encouragement, the iron sharpens iron is reality. And getting people who are invested in seeing you grow and succeed and are willing to, as you said, mentor you, that's something that's worth all the money in the world. I love that I get to be coached by Pat Roach. He's a top 1% agent in the entire Chicagoland area. I mean, that's huge. I mean, I get FaceTime with this guy every other week. We are sitting down. It's not, oh, he might call me back at some point. It's like, no, he's running a top 1% business as well as pouring into other people. And that's unique.
Yeah, and you see it with other agents in our company as well. It all comes together, and it makes sense. You get mentored and taught by the right people, you will then be successful. And that's just not in real estate. That's any business. That's any job you have. Get taught the correct way. No matter how hard it is, you will succeed.
Yeah, like you said, whatever it is, be coachable. Find someone who's willing to, invest in you, and you can definitely put in the work and be successful. One last big question I have for you is I want to hear about one of your most memorable stories.
So, unfortunately, I don't know if I could tell you the truly juicy stuff. Let me just say, these stories were insane. I was face to face with a homeless ex husband in the backyard of a house of the homeowner. I had to call the cops. There was crazy stuff. I didn't know if he had weapons on him. That was a general, to give you a little insight on,
Yeah.
my most memorable deal. For the PG version, I would say, closing my first $1 million sale was great. Just being that young kid, a couple of years in and getting that opportunity that, this amazing woman believed in me and let me take on her listing. And I wouldn't say it took that long, but, had some hurdles. And for me, had a ton of learning lessons. We first put it on the market with no furniture. I didn't really know the true benefit of staging, especially in $1 million house and community. Ended up staging the house, and after that, getting it under contract in about 2 weeks. So that was a great learning lesson. Got it closed. It felt good for my confidence being at that point, like 2 years into the business. So I'll never forget her. I still keep in touch. This older woman, sweet, sweet lady. Working with her before my grandmother passed away, helping her downsize from a condo down to this one-story villa in West Boca, which that was probably like my third transaction ever in real estate. So that was great. And she always, she was the one that wanted me to get into real estate. So that was kind of full circle. So that was a great moment. So, it's a lot of these moments to where it's like kind of hitting that next step in your business that or these milestones that you'll never really forget.
I appreciate that. Before we do the big reveal and give our final thoughts on the whiskey here, anything else you want to say for this episode?
I'll end with this. I think that in a market like we've seen and the volatility that we've kind of seen in the past, 5 years since 2020, it is the most crucial time in history to hire a true professional when buying or selling your home, whether it's a primary or for an investment. I don't care if you hire either me or Alex. Obviously, please do. But don't just hire your friend or cousin or the secretary's son. Truly vet your agent. Make sure you're interviewing people and make sure you hire a true professional like us to not only educate you throughout the process, but really put you in the best position to succeed in this quote unquote volatile or moving market in these unforeseen times. No, I appreciate you having me on, and this has been quite a treat. So I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you. So, David, how about you do the reveal for us? What was bottle number one?
Bottle number one, the McAllen 12.
The Macallan 12, the Sherry Oak cast finish. That definitely explains the more amber tones versus your traditional gold because you're going to get a bit of that color coming out of that sherry cask. That's why the fruit tones were so much more prominent. I am currently drinking the double cast. So this is finished in European oak and American oak, which definitely pulls out that oakiness. So I still get the caramels that I was getting in Macallan Sherry, but I don't get nearly the amount of sweetness and fruit linger that comes at the end. This is still a phenomenal whiskey. I really enjoy it. Note on both of these, Macallan's fantastic, but there is a little bit of an upsell on these because Macallan's a very popular brand. You're going to find that periodically certain brands are going to sell higher. So definitely stay tuned. Watch following episodes. I'm going to give you alternatives to things like Macallan because not everybody wants to drop 90 plus bucks on a bottle of whiskey, but if you're willing to spend around 90, at least that's what it sells for in my market, that 90 to 100 for the sherry cask. I can get the double oak for 60 bucks.
Let me leave you off with my favorite tequila since I'm a tequila fan.
Yes, please.
The Avion Reserva 44. It's a extra añejo tequila in a beautiful box. It also is not cheap, but man, does that go down like water. For the tequila lovers out there, um, please try it. You will not regret it.
Hey, I love that. Maybe next time when I have you on, we do a special tequila episode and we sip on tequila.
Sounds good, my friend.
Love it. Well, David, thank you very much. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your insights. Once again, if either one of us can help you, you know how to find us. And thank you all for watching.
Cheers.